practice is perfection.
I can do it when no one is listening.
Well, the part you didn't run was beautiful.
It's funny. That's what my other girlfriends say. I was joking.
Anyone who's a fan of Donald Glover knows most times his work is shrouded in a lot of secrecy. But this is actually one of the things I love most about him. He's one of the very few creators who can still keep us on our toes. His latest project, Guava Island, is no different. Other than a short trailer and some vague social media posts, people didn't really know what to expect from this new collaboration. Only a week out from the event, Gambino and his team finally confirmed the project was dropping following his performance at Coachella. The musical thriller follows in the footsteps of the visual albums that have come before it. Think Purple Rain, Lemonade, and Dirty Computer. It delivers us something that's worth more than all the music festival hype and marketing stunts. It utilizes the medium to elevate what could be an hour-long vanity project into an allegory about artists' function in modern society. After multiple viewings of the film, I think the best way to approach Guava Island is to reframe our thinking and expectations a bit. Meaning we shouldn't view this story as a traditional Western narrative, but instead as a sort of modern myth or fable, with Denny, Gambino's character, assuming the role of a traditional folk hero. The world of Guava is even introduced to us by way of a bedtime story, delivered by Rihanna's Kofi. This seemingly arbitrary style choice conveys a deeper truth about the message of this work. Folk narratives within black communities form an orature category that are in large measure inherited from Africa. Cultures within the African diaspora have long preserved knowledge and values through oral traditions such as music and storytelling. It's no coincidence then that the same literary technique is used in the opening of Black Panther. In both sequences, we learn about the way the worlds are set up through parents telling stories to their kids. I think the strength of introducing this story this way is that it invites us to adopt the narrator's perspective. So keep in mind, when we see the scenes play out, we're actually seeing them the way Kofi remembers it, or rather, the way she's relating these scenes to her child. To me, this point is driven home by the director-DP duo, Hiro Murai and Christian Springer. At times, the camera feels like it's floating. The low, wide angles, and heavy film grain work together to create a feeling of nostalgia and timelessness. Denny Maroon even meets all the benchmarks of a typical folk hero. Humble beginnings, commits a deed of mythic proportions, and becomes a martyr in the face of injustice, while his story gets passed down to future generations. Side note, his last name, Maroon, is an allusion to the Jamaican Maroons, a group of escaped slaves who found freedom in the mountains of the island. While the film is in no way subtle about its theme of social resistance, it's important to think about how this theme is being delivered to us. Almost every scene of this film contains an act of resistance or rebellion. Sure, you have the big moments like the concert and the funeral, but there are more subtle instances of it too. Consider the scene in the sweatshop when Letitia Wright's character starts dancing as soon as the guard leaves the room, which is also an awesome cameo by Sherry Silver, the This Is America choreographer. Or the scene when Denny spins their break serenading Kofi with Summertime. Even Love and Leisure can be considered rebellious acts when committed in the face of authority. And it's Denny's music that serves as the soundtrack to this non-violent revolution. All things considered then, it's not hard to see that Glover and his collaborators are weaving us a sort of modern-day myth that reflects our anti-capitalist zeitgeist. By committing these acts of resistance, Denny and his fellow islanders are taking part in a rich tradition, one that has its roots in real people and events. Watching Guava, I couldn't help but draw parallels to two real-life artists, in particular, Bob Marley and Nipsey Hussle. First, let's talk about Bob. In 1976, Jamaica was a tense place. Two major political forces, the PNP, People's National Party, and the JLP, the Jamaican Labour Party, were vying for control and influence over the island. With the election approaching in the fall, warring gang factions committed political violence on behalf of the parties. Thanks to weapons smuggled in by the US, Jamaica was now a ticking time bomb. But Bob Marley had always viewed himself as a neutral force, aligning himself with only the Rastafari movement. At some point, he had an idea to put on a peace concert to unite the whole island, even if only for a night. Sound familiar? But when he approached the government, largely PNP at the time, about putting on the concert, strong arms working for the JLP took this as a sign of political loyalty. Through no fault of his own, Marley's concert had been politicized by a PNP candidate, Michael Manley. Manley scheduled a last-minute election the day following the concert, hoping to capitalize on the turnout. 2 days prior to the event, JLP gunmen stormed Marley's house and attempted an assassination on the musician. but Bob went on to survive the attack and played the show anyway, drawing a crowd of thousands. It's not hard to see why Marley comes to mind when watching this film, and I have no doubt that that was writer Stephen Glover's intent. Fans were also quick to draw comparisons between Denny and recently deceased rapper Nipsey Hussle. Hussle passed away on March 31st, 2019, long after this film had finished principal photography. He was extremely active in his community, investing in local businesses and youth programs, but he wasn't shy about his prior gang affiliations. He used his perspective to launch his career, rapping about the things he had witnessed growing up. Nipsey was a folk hero in his own right. Glover even made a statement about the artist passing at Coachella. We lost Nipsey. What I'm starting to realize, all we really have is memories at the end of the day. That's all we are. I think this mirrors the film's perspective exactly. Denny wants to unite the citizens of the island for a brief moment so that they can at least have a memory of what it means to be free. Nipsey's death sent waves throughout his community, and several of the gang leaders in LA even called a truce on the day of his funeral. In an eerie similarity, Denny's death is what leads the islanders to uniting and taking back their Sunday. Even the production design mirrors this theme of separated things becoming united. In the film, the use of red and blue denotes two separate worlds, the dock workers and the seamstresses. But the gap between these worlds is literally bridged by Denny, and we can see this represented in his outfit during the concert. Now, while any connection between Nipsey's passing and the plot of this film are merely coincidental, I think it's fair to say that both he and Denny share a similar perspective and function within their communities. So what is the function of an artist in a society that values monetary gain above all else, even us? Old pals Socrates and Plato recognized that art was powerful enough to stir up our emotions. It's for this reason that they thought art should be censored, that the average citizen should only be exposed to good art, stuff that promotes society's basic values, and bad art, anything deviant, should be thrown out altogether. In their eyes, artists should strive to promote moral, law-abiding behavior in their work, but this argument operates on the basic assumption that the powers that run society are moral and just. What happens when the institutions that rule over our lives stop working in favor of us and in the favor of despots? Intellectual James Baldwin had this to say on the responsibility of the artist. The role of the artist is exactly the same as the role of the lover. If I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things you don't see. Making us conscious seems to be Glover's sole focus, second only to entertaining us. Early on in the film, Denny rants that any place you have to make someone else richer in order to get rich is America, before transitioning into a revamped performance of the popular song. This new context adds an entirely different meaning. Where the now famous music video features gunshots prominently on the beat, the droning of machinery is now central to the music. Thanks to this remix, what was once a commentary on prevalent gun violence has become a broader critique of our work-obsessed culture. This is America. But much like the US government, red citizens are under a constant state of surveillance. The production design adds to the sense of Orwellian paranoia. You can find eyes painted on the walls in various locations throughout the movie. Also, it's heavily implied Red's tapping the phone lines. Denny freezes just when he's about to say the lyric, "This is Selly, that's a tool," because another dock worker threatens to get Boss on the phone. Perhaps my favorite moment of the film, though, Denny puts on a radio performance of Feels Like Summer that gets the whole island to stop and listen for a second. This song has been getting a lot of play lately, thanks to another great music video, but I hadn't really considered the meaning of the lyrics until I heard them in this film. Glover sings a ghostly tune about climate change, authoritarian regimes, and mass extinction. Though it's easy to get lost in the beautiful melody, you can't hide from the perspective he presents us with, because it's our perspective. Our society is facing some serious challenges, but so often it can feel like no one's willing to grapple with these problems at an institutional level. I think that's the benefit of being an artist, and what makes art so dangerous for those in positions of authority. Artists don't have to answer to anyone but themselves and their communities at the end of the day. I'll admit I may be biased in my critique. I've been following both Glover and Hiro Murai's work for years, but there was a lot of hype surrounding this film, and fans, me included, have come to expect a lot from both of their projects. Despite all that, the team behind Guava Island has created something that still manages to exceed all expectations. It isn't quite a short film, music video, or visual album. I'd consider it an experimental portrait of social resistance and a handbook for any artist searching for their purpose.